Peace. My name is Eclypse, born in Columbus, Ohio, live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and been getting down for about 20 years. The first time I saw someone popping in real life was actually my cousin, Derek. We were at the club, and he started doing these moves that I had seen on movies like Breaking. Exactly like that on the movies, like Breaking. And he was getting down and he was doing it, and I'd never seen anybody actually pop in real life before him. He also gave me my very first Wiggles tape, which sent me on my journey. So after I saw my cousin popping for the first time, he told me about Wiggles and the Wiggles tapes that he had. He gave me Wiggles 2. At the time, I was a hardcore breaker. I was breaking, and that was all I was interested in doing. But after seeing him get down with popping a little bit, I started to get interested, watched the Wiggles tape. So this was about 2001, and it was in the club called Metropolis. It was our favorite teen spot, and it's where we went to train. Like I said, at the time I was a breaker, but after I saw my cousin popping, I started practicing a little bit of that at home, and then I would start going to the club on the weekends and practice popping along with my breaking, and that was here in Cincinnati. Didn't really get into popping hardcore though until I left Cincinnati, went to school in Michigan, and then I started to dabbling a little more in popping because it became harder to break at college parties. Not enough room. So about 2003, I made the full transition into popping and went 100% into it from that point forward. In the beginning, I took the dances seriously. I wanted to learn them, I wanted to train, I wanted to get better, but not in the sense of going professional, because like most people who get into street dance, we don't really understand that that's an option. And at that time, it was not as big of an option, especially being in the Midwest. It involved leaving and going either to New York or LA. And I wasn't interested in doing that. So I just trained diligently, but definitely didn't think about doing it as a career at that point. The crews that were around in Cincinnati, popping crews, they comprised some of the people who definitely molded my idea of popping. But you had people like Flex, Technology, at one point Stanky D, changed names a bunch of times, Pop Secret, and a few others, Footnote, rest in peace. These cats were all local. Most of them were in the Dayton area. There was a breaking crew down here called Murder Rock Crew, and they definitely helped keep the culture overall alive and gave us some spaces to continue to get into the street dances. So some of those spaces that we got down was, of course, Metropolis, then any other clubs around the area. So we used to go to a club called Extreme, but Bourbon Street. Most of these places were, of course, nightclubs, but then there were other event type venues like Annie's, which was a nightclub / event center where the famous Scribble Jam battles happened. But they always had a disco funk night on Sundays, and that's where most of the dancers would go during the week. So it was a bit of an older crowd because it was all disco and funk. And I didn't get to go to that too often. I came in towards the tail end of that era, but that's where a lot of the older cats in the scene would go and train and practice. There were a lot of spaces for dancers back then, the late 90s through the early 2000s. Unfortunately, a lot of those places have disappeared for a variety of reasons. But back then, man, if you wanted to dance, you can find a spot to go most nights of the week. So I never really got down with a crew until way later. And most of the crews that I was down with were crews that I was a founder of or co-founder of. So the only crew that I didn't start that I was down with for a little while was G-Style. And Tempo put me down in that crew when he trained me for a little bit on how to wave. And yeah, but outside of that, it was all crews that we made, you know. We didn't get big, but the ones most of you guys are most familiar with would be the Millennium robots, and then now the Heroes Rise Street Dance Experience. And then before that, we had another group. The acronym was TAR, and I don't remember why it was that, but it was something we had in college. The only two other poppers that I ever met before I met the entire Detroit street dance scene. But for 2 years, I was a solo popper in Michigan. It was sad. Then I found two other guys, and we made a group called TAR, and I can't remember what that stood for. So a main inspiration for me was definitely the local dancers. Seeing them on the big stage at Scribble Jam. The first time I actually got to meet them was, I want to say 2003. And this would be Flex, Tick, Stanky D, Machine. All these cats were from the Dayton, Cincinnati, and Northern Kentucky area. I'd heard about these cats from another mentor that I had for years. He told me for about 2 years, he told me about this guy named Tick and this dude named Flex, and how they were up in Dayton and they were doing real, electric boogaloo. And finally got to see them dance, and when I saw them, at Scribble Jam, it was like mind blowing. That also happened to be the Scribble Jam that the animated Beat Mechanics, J-Rock, Popula, Pringles, Bishop Don, all these cats, they were there at that Scribble Jam as well. So there was a very healthy helping of inspiration. But going forward, definitely Flex. We stayed active in the scene, saw him in many battles. A lot of the Detroit cats also, when they had battles there, I got to meet a lot of those people. So, but Flex was probably one of my biggest inspirations to really push into popping, local inspirations. Yeah, for sure. So battles back then were definitely different than they are now. It was difficult because there weren't a lot of battles being thrown in our area, so we always had to travel. And traveling was really cool. We get, a few people and we would just go to jams, similar to what most of you all have done, and go and connect, meet with people. It was dope because there were not a lot of us doing that in Cincinnati. So we would leave and then we would get to come back and give what we learned to the folks who, weren't able to go to the battles and travel like we could. That was super dope. We'd show up to the club the next week with, say, yo, this is what we did this weekend, and we met so-and-so, and You know, we would try out some new stuff, and it was really ill. Oh, my experience with street performing. Woo! So I probably have about, I'd say, 10 years of professional street performing under my belt. Started out creating a character, just wanted to really dig into paying homage to the original way that street dancers made money, like in Vegas, LA, you know. Creating that character, creating a show, making cash on the street. And I did that, created the Millennium robot. First time I did that was at a casino, and it was a New Year's Eve, 2010, I want to say. New Year's Eve, well, technically 2009, going into 2010. So, and everybody was wearing silver at the club, all the staff. So I was like, this will be a great day for me to try out, you know, the silver character. And that's where it all started. Went out there, made some money. I was like, oh, snap. Found out how much money I could make doing that. And I loved it, while also trying to, you know, inspire people through the culture. You know, it was a win-win for me. So if I didn't go into popping, later on I found that I really love house. House was just beautiful when I found the music, and then to see the dance that went along with it, it just captivated me. I'm just like, I love house. If I'm not a popper or doing animation, I would definitely be a house dancer. But you know, if popping was my first love, then animation became my mistress. It was, you know, definitely a segue into, you know, from popping into animation. That was a very definitive point in my dancing career. Meeting somebody, some of you might know a guy named Tempo. When I met Tempo for the first time, I actually got to see a different style of popping outside of an electric boogaloo bass. Up to that point, all we'd known was electric boogaloo, and when I met Tempo, he wasn't doing that. He did something else, and I was very intrigued by that. So that's my thing. There weren't a lot of movies that really inspired me specifically to dance, but there were a lot of things that inspired how I created the style for myself. I really enjoyed the art form of posing and transition into epic, unorthodox poses. A lot of that came from my love of comic books, and I would just see how people would draw when they wanted to show people in positions of power or exerting their power or using their power, what kinds of positions and poses they would be in when they would do that. So I would slide those things into my dance to make it look more intense and more epic. But you know, a lot of things that you take inspiration from aren't necessarily dance related. You know, of course you're inspired by movies that have to deal with technology, you know, Matrix trilogy, martial arts movies, of course, a lot of animation, and then, you know, animated comic book films, definitely. When thinking about what our popping scene looks like today, I try not to fantasize about what I would want it to be, just to avoid setting unrealistic expectations and allowing myself to just accept and to see what's actually reality and what's happening. So I never really formed any ideas about what I would like it to become. I kind of look at what is, but I think if I did that, I would just like to see more authenticity where it comes to accepting of different ideas. That would be something I would like to see. And it's happening, you know. The evolution is happening where people are learning more about what is popping, about the history of popping, about what all went into creating this dance that we call popping, and learning that there are a lot of different ways to go about it. So that would really be the main thing I would hope for. So for me specifically, there were, once clubs stopped becoming a big thing, once they started kind of going away, once the really big nightclub thing started to disappear, that's where we saw a lot of the community with regard to street dance kind of start fading out, and you started losing a lot of people who were connected to that community because they went to the club, because they would see you every week going to a specific night spot, designed and built for you to dance. You started losing those people. And as those things went away, the scenes kind of shrunk, and people were being forced to figure out other ways to congregate, to link up, to connect, to keep that community alive. So it's been a struggle. It's definitely been a struggle, especially in Midwestern areas where, you know, the whole thing with craft beer and unique bar experiences is kind of taking over, where it's like, yeah, let's just stand around and have a conversation about whatever, versus and just have the DJ there playing music, but you're not really paying attention to that. You know, back in the day, not that far back, the DJ was one of the main reasons you went out to a spot, you know, because you knew they were going to play the type of music you wanted to hear so you could get down. Nowadays, I'm not sure if people feel the same way about the DJ's role in the party atmosphere and the social atmosphere. So establishments aren't catering to that. The dancers would go to these places because of the DJs, and the establishments would want to facilitate the dancer, the DJ, and their non-dancing patrons as well. But now it's kind of like you get in if you can fit in, you know? You're walking to the hottest bar in the spot, but it's just one long corridor, and they're playing music. You might have your friend that's playing there, and you might be playing some hot stuff. There's nowhere for you to get down. So all those contribute to the change in our scene and how we interact with each other, the shrinking of the scene. But I think that has made people find outside spaces, you know, abandoned warehouse type parties or underground brewery parties are popping, these huge pop-up events. So I think we're getting back to opening the community again, to adding to the community again. It's just looking different. Oh yeah, definitely. I think there's a huge impact. I think there's a big shift in just how people gain information in general. Because there's that change in the social gathering spaces now, Most people are finding out about these dances through media, like social media, television, movies, etc. And just kind of hashing their own way. And you know, some of them get lucky enough to find each other, and then they start to build something together. So maybe they find a space that's willing to facilitate what they have going on. But now I think most people are figuring this out online, and they're trying to see who's where through their online connection, not necessarily going out and accidentally seeing or running into someone at a bar or at a club or in the street or something like that. Though that still happens, especially through street performing. If you're out in the street, somebody sees you performing, they're like, yo, I didn't know they did that here. There might be another dancer, then you connect. So, you know, that's cool. But generally, I think it's mostly people figure it out. They see a video of someone and they're like, yo, that person is here, let's try to connect. So my experience with teaching started, I want to say, about 2012. And I started teaching at Dayton Dance Conservatory. There was one of my mentors there was Kelsa, and you know, she kind of got me into the whole teaching thing. I was never really interested in teaching before that, but it was good. I was there for about 4 years in the studio, so I kind of got a good taste of teaching not only in a studio, but teaching street dance in a studio setting, and that was good. From that point, I left there and would teach at random other places. And as I continued to teach, I got more opportunities, and that was dope, all the way to the point now where I'm teaching at the University of Cincinnati, the first ever street style dance instructor, authentic street style dance class at the University of Cincinnati. And up to this point, I've played there for maybe, I think it's 3 years. This is my 3rd year. And this next semester will be the first semester actually teaching in the dance department and not just in the general studies department. So it's a big deal. I think teaching is necessary, of course. I prefer performing, but teaching is dope, because when you give somebody information, the best part about that is seeing them be able to accept and use it immediately. You know, as soon as you teach them something, you go to a cipher, and you see them do the move you just showed them. You know, that's a great feeling. Or hearing about something that they did outside of class. You know, they're at a party or their friend showed them something and they say, I know how to do that, I know what that is. And they're able to tell you that story about how they learned something from you. That's what it's about. I think popping in the Midwest is dope. I think because we don't have as much influence from the coasts, that we have been able to develop our own flavors, our own feels for the movement that allows us to stand out and to look unique wherever we go. The biggest compliments that I personally have gotten when I left the Midwest to go other places is, you know, being good but not looking familiar, looking unique. People asking, how did you do X, Y, Z? How did you come up with this? How did you come up with that? I think that is the biggest asset we have in the Midwest, is our ability to remain unique and to approach these dances from a very clean and untainted, well, mostly untainted perspective. We don't have a bunch of other people right down the street doing the exact same things that we're doing. A lot of people who are into these dances are spread out, which allows us the ability to stay creative. And when we do come together, we can exchange ideas and inspire each other to continue to build. So I think Midwest popping is dope. There are a lot of good dancers here. I would like to see more poppers, see people get more into just the illusionary styles in general. So including animation, tutting, waving, all of those things. The first thing I would say is don't do it if you don't love it. You know, it's if you're looking to just have fun with it, then that's cool. Do that, enjoy yourself, have fun. But if you're looking to make a career out of it, make sure that it's something you can see yourself doing forever, right? Because you love it enough to get up and practice doing this for 30 minutes, right? It's loving it enough to just do it all the time. And then just do it all the time. Like, don't worry about people looking at you, thinking that, don't be embarrassed about none of that. No, you do it. Do it until you're the best at doing it that you know. And then the sky's the limit. Last thoughts. Make better videos. Stop playing games, people. You got cell phones out here that can shoot whole movies. Doesn't take much. Let us enjoy everything you want to put on that screen. Let us enjoy it. Decent quality. All right? Playing games. You got this.
I have been doing the thing for quite some time.